Today I want to talk about a word that is kind of a buzzword that's been going around. I've seen it on Brene Brown. I have seen it all over social media. But today I wanted to talk about the word accountability and what it actually means and why I think that what we're going through right now is a bit of double speak. If you've read 1984, because what we're saying is accountability and what actually is accountability seem to be two extremely different things. So let's talk about it. All right, and I apologize if you can hear the rooster in the background. I do live in the country. Accountability is huge to people who are trying to rise up, trying to change something in their lives and trying to improve. It is the most important skill that we can develop. It is the most important kind of gauge of honesty. And right now in society, we are at a place where we are told that to apply reason or to apply honesty is to be racist. Well, let me be very clear on that right now. I am not a racist in any way, shape, or form, but I see people as people. I see you and your worth just because you're you. I could care less, and I don't care if that upsets people. I can care less about a person's gender, a person's sexual identity, or a person's religious background. But my question is can you say the same? Now we're going through a new administration, and this administration is promising to unify us, to bring us all together, but at the same time is excluding one group, is excluding white men. Why? I mean, I know the reason why, because we've heard it for the last 6 months, and there are many people who are just constantly putting it through our heads. But when I see signs at Subway that say things like, no racism allowed, but then it's Black Lives Matter, I'm going to be honest, okay? I believe that Black Lives Matter, the organization, is extremely racist. There you go, I said it. That is the reason I haven't spoke a lot, just personally, in the last 6 months, because trying to figure it out, trying to listen to people and go, what am I missing here? And seeing for myself that seeing for myself firsthand what's going on and actually being jumped by BLM, I can tell you that I do not believe the organization helps Black people. And so that brings me into this idea of accountability. Right now, we are in a place where if you have a certain viewpoint, you are not supposed to speak. What I am considered as a conservative person of color is a reverse white supremacist or a multicultural white supremacist. I'm not. I don't believe that anybody is superior to someone else based on the melanin or lack thereof in their skin, period. What I do believe in is personal responsibility. The fact is that people can teach you, people can tell you all of these things. You know, you're not responsible for this, and you're not responsible for this, and this is just because you fit into this box. Let me take, for example, education. I have a middle school age child, and I've just heard that the SATs are being taken away because they are too hard for a person. They put too much stress on a person. And timeliness, turning in homework is no longer going to be an issue because that is racist and kills the spirit of Black children. What I see in that, quite frankly, is the bigotry of low expectations. And I'm not really surprised by it because our new president has a history of bigoted opinions, thinking the worst of people based on the color of their skin. And now it's just flipped. It used to be totally okay to be overtly thinking the worst of people, and now it has to look like, oh, but I'm actually helping you. So I want to explain to you in the clearest way possible the bigotry of low expectations. And this isn't just about being Black. This is also about growing up poor. In fact, I think it's more relevant to growing up poor, growing up abused, growing up in foster care than it is to the color of our skin. One, we're assuming that every single Black person has the same experience. And so we're put into this box of, if you have this much Black blood, you have this much experience, and you must go into this box. And if you are gay, then you must go into this box. The only problem with that is that we're trying to say that gender is fluid. And so they're actually pressuring some homosexual people to date straight people so that they can prove that gender is fluid. There's something wrong with this. There's something wrong with not allowing every person to just be, and that includes white men. The things that are happening to white men are shocking to me, because we say that we're all about peace, we're all about unity, we want everyone to be equal, but yet I'm hearing from sources, I'm hearing things that Amazon has to go over their list and not hire white men. They're supposed to specifically look for Black people, even if they're not qualified, because that is the current narrative. But is that fair to a Black person? Is that fair to the Black person who is qualified to have to compete with Black people who are not qualified? And why aren't they qualified? Maybe they're not qualified because in our schools we are seeing things like, it's not important to be timely, it's not important to have perfectionism, it's not important to tune your music if you play in the orchestra. All of these things are suddenly not important and not relevant, and what they are is lowering the standards of excellence for every single person. And when you have these rules for Black people, the only way to make them fair for everyone else is that if you make everybody else go lower on that playing field. And see, I've been in classes, I've volunteered for years in classes where minorities are actually doing very, very well. Anybody who has parents who sit and focus and spend the time with them can do well. So why are we lowering the expectations? Why are we lowering the bar? When you lower the bar, when you tell people, well, this is all we expect that you're able to do, what do you think that does for them? It kills their self-esteem. It kills their motivation and their desire to do better and to be better. And so I have this feeling that they just want us to be these kind of cogs in a wheel, just all doing the same thing, no one achieving more than anyone else. And does that sound like a great idea? Sure, except for when you study socialism, except for when you study the histories of when they've done this before. It's not to lift everybody up to this higher playing field, it's to lower everyone else down to the lower playing field. And so when I talk about accountability, I talk about what is it that you personally want for your life. Because see, what I'm here to do is to help people that are starting out on rock bottom, whoever that is, whatever gender, whatever religion, whatever color you are. I know that if you have accountability to yourself and whatever it is, whatever your goals are, that you can reach a higher place. I'm not going to tell anybody that we're all going to be billionaires, we're all going to live the lap of luxury. But we can be better than where we started, or at least we could. Because now we have situations where we're finding out, where we're not supposed to strive to be better. In the BLM organization, when it first started, or not when it first started, but when it first kicked off this year after George Floyd, I went to the page because I wanted to understand. I really wanted to understand, why are so many people jumping on this? Yes, I absolutely agree that Black lives matter, but why is it wrong to say that all lives matter? And I went to the page, and all I had to do was read what their precepts were. The idea that we disrupt the idea of the traditional family. This idea that we disrupt the idea of classism or a middle class. Why? Why would you do that, and why would you be okay with it? Why do we not hold ourselves? Why do we not hold those people who are who are involved in the police situations, both the police and the, if you want to say victim. I do not choose to say victim, because in my experience, from everything that I have read and everything that I have seen, actual affidavits of things that have happened, nobody was innocent. And when I looked and thought, well, nobody's innocent, why are we all doing this? And I go to pages like Sojourner Truth that say things like, if you question somebody's accountability, then you are being racist. No, I'm not. I'm sorry, I'm absolutely not being racist by going, I want all the details. I'm being thoughtful. I'm thinking about the whys and the reasons, because if you don't apply the reason, then you can't apply a solution. And I've been out there and talked to people, and I've said, what are your solutions? You know, when people are just, all cops are bastards, all cops are bastards, all cops are bastards. And you're just like, okay, I understand. And so you're like, okay, I understand. I don't even completely disagree with you. I have met some hugely jerk cops, as I've pointed out in other videos, but not all. In no case is all the right answer. So, and now I have a woman actually just told me, you know, you say not all cops, but you say all BLM. What I say with all BLM is these people are following a theology that has no, and I call it a theology because they're very devout. They're very devout. And yes, the idea that they are standing up for racism, I stand up for racism. Look at me. I deal with racism. I know what it is. I know what it is from both sides. And when people, when black professors stand up in their suits and they say racism can only come from people with power, what exactly do you call it when you can get people fired for being white? I would call that power. This narrative that minorities can't have power, and then you see this cancel culture that cancels any white person who doesn't agree with them, and any person of color who doesn't agree with them. And I'm sure there'll be people at some point who will try to cancel me because I don't agree with it. You know, when I see a sign, like I said, at Subway that says, we don't support racism, then I'm like, yes, good, don't support racism. But then don't you dare have the fist. Don't you dare have the BLM fist up there if you don't support racism, because you do support racism. You support thinking of some people differently than you think of others. And that is racism. Especially when you have the power to cancel other people. When you have the power to not serve someone because of the shirt they wear, the hat they wear, that is acting like a racist. So let's go into this idea, once again, of accountability. We're hearing, I have heard things about conservatives needing to go to gulags, needing to have their children taken away, needing to be reprogrammed. Why? Because they dare to have a different thought. But yet, all of these other groups have dared to have a different thought. And they don't apply that same thing to themselves. Quite frankly, we're in the most hypocrisy-filled time of our lives. And you can sit there and say she has no idea what she's talking about, but what about when it's you? What about when it's you? I can go out and do whatever it is I need to do, and people will make their assumptions one way or another. You know, maybe you could say my family is protected just because of the way that I look right now. But I'm thinking about all people, really genuinely care about all people. So I'm wondering things like, why are kids not learning about the Holocaust? Why do they not know? Why did I not know about communism in Vietnam? Why did I not know about all of the details about what happened in Europe? Why do we not know those things? I did not know those things until I started talking to immigrants who told me their experiences, and who told me they never want to go back to something like that. And yet our mainstream media can sit and say that people should go to gulags, that their children should be taken away because they dare to raise them traditionally. because because I absolutely raise my son as a boy, because he is a boy. But you know what? I would love him just as much if he came out to me and said, I think I'm a girl, or if he came out and said, I like boys. 1% of the population actually deals with gender dysmorphia. But yet we have multitudes of kids who are claiming this right now. Multiples of kids who are butchering themselves. Multiple kids who hate themselves. And why do they hate themselves? They hate themselves because their teachers tell them that they are oppressed or the oppressors. They hate themselves because celebrities tell them that they are oppressed or the oppressors. They hate themselves because their youth group leaders tell them that they are oppressed or the oppressors. It doesn't matter what they've done. They are this group or they are this group. Quite frankly, this is Marxism. This really worries me because there is no tolerance with that group. If it was just a group that wanted to go off and do its own thing, I would have no problem with that. If tolerance went both ways, I wouldn't be making this video. If tolerance meant what it should, the idea of liberal, which I am a classic liberal, if it meant to live and let live, I wouldn't be making this video. But it doesn't. This take a knee, you will obey, we take no prisoners attitude is quite frankly dangerous. It is as dangerous as a white supremacist or a Muslim authoritarian regime. The things that they want to do, the ways that they want to program our children starting in kindergarten, these are dangerous things. And the way that they want to push a false accountability on our children and to say that because you were born this way, you are this. That is dangerous. It is damaging to our kids. And I have ran into multiple teachers in grade school and in middle school who are pushing this agenda on our children. So let's take this accountability or lack of accountability, because a lot of times these people say victims don't have to be accountable. But here's the thing, everybody's a victim except for the white cisgender male. Everybody else gets to be that victim. But the white cisgender male, even those who are from the poorest, most dire of straits, even those who've spent most of their life in prison, they're all guilty just because they're white. And the thing that catches me here, that really makes me go, what do I talk about? How do I just shut up? Do I just stay silent? And the part that convicts me not to is the fact that Christians are adopting this rhetoric. I am a Christian. I'm not a fan of Christ. I'm not I'm not a foreigner. I'm not just dabbling in the religion. I don't believe that we pick and choose. In fact, it's not a matter of what I don't believe, it's what the Bible says, and I follow the Bible in the ways that people like and in the ways that people don't like. But for me, what I see in the Bible is Christ loving others. But that love does not mean that he takes the knee, bows, or does the things that he knows are wrong because it makes others feel good. He doesn't trash temples because it makes others feel good or because it keeps him safe. I don't believe in safe Christianity. I believe in Christianity that I would lay down my life for. That is the same thing that makes me listen to people, want to hear their stories, want to see them, want to offer them the rest and peace that I believe comes in Christ. And part of that rest and peace comes in the fact that when you become a Christian, and any Christian, and even the lightest, wokest Christian will admit that when they become a Christian, quote unquote, their sins are washed away. Okay, so if your sins are washed away, if you are made clean, then why then are we now piling on the guilt and the shame of things that we personally did not do. Is our history bad? Yes. It is very bad. It is embarrassing. Tell me somebody whose isn't. Tell me a culture whose history isn't horrible. But then we have these options of moving forward, and we can move forward in grace. Some people will argue that we can be too tolerant, and some people will say, no, we can live in this world. And I tend to be of this, we are in this world, but not of this world. So for me, I can love people who don't share my beliefs, who are nothing like me, as long as I am allowed to live my life. But what I'm seeing right now is the Southern Poverty Law Center come out and say that Christians, conservative Christians, should be considered a hate group. And believe me, this was before the insurrection, the very, very stupid insurrection on January 6th. This had been said from the very beginning on the first page of what a Biden administration would look like. So now we're considered a hate group. But yet other groups with a monotheistic, meaning one God, are not a hate group, are protected and even serve in our Congress. But they're protected classes, whereas Christians are literally fearing that in our own America, built as a Christian nation, that we could go to prison camps. For what? What accountability do we have? I know that as a Christian, even if a BLM person punches me in the throat, even if they yell and scream and whatever at me, if I see someone being violent towards them, I'm going to go out and stop it. I'm going to do whatever I can to tend to the needs of somebody else. I'm going to be there for people. And if you look at statistics, you will find that people that are religious, specifically people that are Christian, tend to be extremely generous with their time and their resources. But yet you want to take that away. They want to take that away. They want to say we need to be held accountable. Again, for what? For made up things of people who are not accountable for themselves. We have to be held accountable in every situation. I live in a 1960s home that is as cute as I can make it on a very limited budget. I could have been a teacher, I could have been a lawyer, I could have been anything. I had the opportunity to go to school, and I did for 1 year, and I chose to not go back. That is on me. So the money that I have or the money that I don't have is about my accountability. The decisions that I've made in my life, for good or for bad, that is what I'm accountable for, not for the color of my skin. Now, are there systems that promote racist ideology? Absolutely they are. The systems that would tell people that turning in their homework is not a priority. The systems that would tell people that 2 + 2 does not equal 4. The systems that would tell them that truth is relative. While they're being told these things, you can bet that the elite are sending their kids off to private schools to make sure that they are still the elite in the next generation. So who's racist here? Who needs to be held accountable? Those who would tell the cogs in the wheels, just continue to be average or even below average. We'll keep a roof over your head, but you can never, ever become anything else. How about the systems in foster care who never taught kids how to function in society? Those people now that teach kids that because they're a victim, anything that they do is okay and justified. But it's not. Just because somebody tells you that, oh, you're a victim, so the fact that you rage out, that you have violent outbursts and destroy property and, attack people is acceptable because, poor you are a minority who is in foster care. So we understand. Guess who's not going to understand? Guess who is going to hold you accountable? your boss. Your future bosses absolutely will hold you accountable. And the first time you decide to have a massive outbreak and throw and destroy things, you're going to be out of a job. And then you might be homeless. So these people who are telling you beautiful lies are wrong. All of them. Every single one of them. Because the reality is that there is an accountability. It's called personal accountability. Holding a group of people responsible is dangerous. We saw it in Auschwitz. We've seen it in Africa. You know, a bunch of people decide that, oh, well, these white farmers, they've taken over our land, so we need to take it back from them. So they go and they murder and massacre all these people. And then they find out, oh, we don't actually know how to run a farm. So then they become destitute. And the very, very wealthy elites, the aristocracy, they live the life. They live in ginormous homes. And everyone else starves. So when we talk about accountability, it's got to be personal. It has to be about you. What have you done? What have you done to get yourself into the situations that you're in? And I get it. As a foster kid, you know, you may have made very, very few of those choices. And there you go. That accountability is not on you. But your future is. The things that you do in the future, the choices that you make, those are on you. And you shouldn't be held to somebody else's standards on terms of that accountability. It shouldn't be, if you say this, think this, wear this, support this, you must be held accountable. That should be a personal choice. Your results should end personally, not in a box that people want to put you in. What this is called is collectivism, and it gets rid of our souls. So, like I said in the beginning, I would come back to the Christian part of this. My soul is what makes me the person that I am. If I have to put my pronouns on anything to be seen or recognized or to have a job, my pronouns are going to be Christian, wife, mother. That's what I am. That is who I am. Or Christian speaker, mentor. Again, that's who I am. My first and always priority is going to be Christ. And if that means that I'm supposed to be killed for that, or I need to water it down so that I don't offend someone, I'm not going to do that. And if that means that I have to go to a prison camp, which I really would like to wish and hope was some like far off delusion, but I'm not sure that it is. Not sure at all when I listen to things that the African Americans throughout mainstream media are saying about people being held accountable, being reprogrammed, going through truth and reconciliation. All of these things, I think, what about your accountability? What about the fact that you're teaching people to hate? All of this really comes down to teaching you to hate yourself or to hate others. And that is just not a world that it's not a world that I can understand. It's not a world that I can comprehend, get involved with, or be passionate about. And that's what's kept me quiet. It has been a big struggle in my head and in my heart to see the things that are happening, to hear the things that are happening, to realize that, you know, there's neighbors that you cannot trust. There's neighbors that don't value me as a human being, but only see the color of my skin. And as long as the words that I say are what they want to hear, I am on this high pedestal. But as soon as I say, nah, I'll just pull a Rosa Parks and say, nah, that's just not going to work for me. As soon as I say nope, they're done. I'm written off. I have no value. So who's teaching who to hate at that point? Because I don't hate them. I feel sorry for them, and I feel extreme anxiousness and extreme worry for this world. because a pretty face should not be able to teach people how to think. A handsome face in a nice suit should not be teaching our college students that if they don't rage, they're not doing well enough. If they don't rage, that they haven't reached passion. If they don't rage, then they don't get to pass the grade. There's so many things going on that are just a freaking mess. But I've come to this place where I've realized that voices like mine need to be heard. Not because I'm some big celebrity, not because I ever expect to be some giant, whatever, but because there's such a thing as real truth. It's not relative. It's not words mean certain things to different people. That's bullshit. I'm sorry, I'm not a big swearer, but that is what that is. There is a truth. There is a comfort. There is a grace in looking at each other and finding those things that make us similar instead of constantly pointing to other people for our problems, because that is what accountability is. Accountability is when you say, I am responsible for my outcomes in life. I personally am responsible for those outcomes. I believe there should be programs. There should absolutely be programs to help people get from this point to this point. But those programs need to be based on merit, not just based on the color of your skin, not just based on the fact that you're a foreigner, not even based just on the fact that you're poor. When I work with kids, when I'm directing plays, I care about one thing. How does their audition go? That's it. And I don't, this idea that we're not supposed to be colorblind and that we're supposed to see color everywhere. The fact is that we do. No one, no matter how much you think, no one is truly colorblind. When I get in my car and I go to the store, I am like, oh, there's one. There's one. Oh, hey. You have those, you see somebody who looks like you when you give the wave because there's somebody like you out there. That's true. Those are real things. They actually do happen. But do they matter? Do they matter in the big scheme of things? No. That's not why we choose the people that we choose. And that is what makes us not racist. If we're constantly thinking, oh, well, there's one and there's one and there's one and there's one, and even if the thing that we're thinking is, how can I do something better for them and better for them and better for them, we're still being racist. If the fact that they are a certain color matters, then you're racist. All of you across the board, all of us across the board. So if you don't want to be racist, don't pretend you're colorblind because, oh my gosh, trigger, trigger, trigger. Don't pretend that you're colorblind. Just say it doesn't matter. And if somebody calls you a racist, if some teenager gets in your face and is like, you don't believe what I think, so you're a racist, then you know what you say? Nope. I don't accept that. Have a great day. And that's it. Don't let it threaten you. Don't let it be like, oh my gosh, people are going to think I'm a racist and people are going to, that's on them. That is their accountability, not yours. You don't have to take on anyone else's accountability. You're only responsible for yourself. In every situation, you are responsible for you. If you have children, yes, you are responsible for your children while they're children, but teach them to be accountable. Now, my son, if he does something like, if I tell him to do a chore and he doesn't do a good job, then I'm like, okay, well, you didn't do a good job with that, so you need to do it again, and you have a second chore. Because I'm trying to teach him to be accountable. I'm trying to teach him to do his best. I'm trying to teach him to be the best version of himself. That is what accountability should be about. Not putting others down so that you can lift yourselves up. Not being so smug that your farts don't stink. And I'm sorry, once again, to be vulgar, but that's the reality, is that people think that by pushing other people down, it makes them look better. But when did that become the thing? Why? We've had years of anti-bullying, but our culture is an extremely bullying culture. Our culture right now is to cancel someone who does not believe as you do. If you put up free thinker, you can be canceled. Why? Where do you get this idea that it's okay for you to do to someone, but it's not okay for someone to do to you? That accountability, that is not on you. Nobody can make you be less than you are. So stop letting them. Just stop letting them. This channel is created to provide life skills and hope and a vision upward. And that's what's been so hard, because I've seen people say, no, don't expect anyone to go up. Let's just wallow. Let's just sit and air our grievances for 7 months straight. And that is not why I'm creating this work. I'm creating this work because even though we do have grievances, even though we do have pains, even though we have generational hurts, they don't have to stop us. They don't have to stilt us. When we spend all of our time focusing only on that, we can't move forward. And that's our goal. My goal is to help as many people as possible live their best lives, to be the best version of themselves, to heal so that they can go and heal others. And what I'm seeing right now is a lot of people willing to hurt anyone who doesn't think like they do.